We are asking what is new and different about the 7 SDGs. That was before it was known to be the MDGs, or the Millennial Development Goals. Right now, we call it the Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable, in a way, just like any JCI organization, when we create things, we want it to be what? Sustainable. Okay, this is the idea because we are not always present in the in a certain place, in a certain thing that we do. Just like we say, when we do projects, it's not all chapters, right? Not all LOs in our country could do same projects every year. Because what happened when you always go back to that project, how do other people perceive it? When you say you're going to support this community, you're going to do project in this community, and then you do it all over and all over again, does it seem sustainable? But it's not. And what other people think perceive about that kind of project? They will always see that they're just wasting resources, because those community tends to become independent on your organization, right? They become dependent on your organization when it comes to their development, their progress. They cannot handle it on themselves. What we're trying to do here as an organization is we teach them how to fish. So we provide them whatever they need at first, and then teach them how to keep it. That's why we always involve our stakeholders on our projects. We always make sure that whenever we conduct a project, those stakeholders must have their sense of ownership also, that they will take care of what you have provided to them. The reason is, for that kind of activity or that kind of project to be sustainable, that they will able to take care of it to go on, so that you don't have to come back to them and provide them again with these things. All you have to do is be proud that you have teach them to start and be able to continue that kind of project, that kind of development in their community. That's why we provide them sustainable development. And right now, that idea of JCI, of providing sustainable development, will be geared towards the idea of the international community. That this is not just for for our local. This is not just for a limited exclusive thing, but we will create this for the general, for the humanity, for the entire society. Okay, so the project is not anymore like, usually kasi pag mag-project tayo, nagpa-project lang tayo for the sake na may project tayo. Then suddenly, what is the coverage of the project? Di ba? Suddenly like, oh, ito lang. Yan lang. We just only cover so few. We just only cover the limited number of people, limited number of stakeholders. But then again, how are we going to expand it? How are we going to create a project? How are we going to create a program that, even though we just conducted it in a small scale, but its impact is big, but its impact is in an international scale, dynamic siya, at the same time, it's inspiration to others. Kumbaga, you see other countries won their awards, recognized by the international JCI International, not because their projects are expensive, but their projects are inspiring, that other JCI community were able to replicate, were able to create that project in their own community. Diba? So how is that being a challenge to us? Because as a JCI, we are always tend to create something that should be remarkable in a process. Okay? Remarkable siya in a way that it's not just for your LO, but remarkable siya because you are making changes visible to the whole world. So, what are this? First, and the most important, these goals apply to every nation. So that's the goal, right? That it should be applied to every nation and every sectors. Cities, businesses, schools, organizations, all are challenged to act. That's why it's called universality. Because this goal is not just for JCI. This goal is not just for the government. This goal is not just for businesses. It's for everyone. Because everyone is affected and everyone is living on the same roof. We're all in one planet. Okay? Second, it is recognized that the goals are all interconnected in a system. Okay? We cannot aim to achieve just one. Goals, we must achieve them all. That's why we have integration. Okay? We're not just going to just look into the poverty. We're not just going to look into the inequality. It's not like that. Because whenever we look into these goals, each and every one of these goals are interconnected to each other. Each and every one of these goals must be has a domino effect toward the other. Just like clean water to the health and sanitation, to the extent of food production, something like that, or the climate change towards the life on land and the life on water. You see, each of these goals are, when we achieve one of these goals, something like that, it will already affect the other. That's why it's not just something like it ends here. When we have a goal, it ends here on one. No, that's why we have to integrate, because we are, well, in the concept of science, this is biodiversity and everyone is interconnected, right? One is affected by the other. And we cannot just say that I'm all alone, or unless you isolate yourself in an island and that's all. You just can achieve one goal, no hunger, then you can survive. But how can you survive if you have no life on land, no life on water, something like that, okay? And finally, it is widely recognized that achieving these goals involve making very big fundamental changes in how we live on Earth. That's why here we have the integration of what we call active citizenship in the form of transformation. Take note of this. You don't have to become superhero to transform the world. All you have to do is passion, heart, and inspiration. And maybe you can be the next Iron Man of JCI. Okay? So let's take a tour of the 17 goals. I'm presenting this to you with some key facts. Each and every goal I'm presenting you I will include the key facts, as well as the overview of the current situation with the integration of the COVID situation natin, and then as well as its relevance to the cities. I'm trying to show you the relevance to the cities because, of course, most of us JCI organizations are within the community of the cities, right? That doesn't refer to just a highly urbanized city, but also includes the communities in general, as well as its relevance to the government. Idea of presenting it with the relevance to the government is because usually there are things that we cannot do alone, right? We need also to see how the government would approach this kind of problem from them. But maybe at that point we can take a look at this is an opportunity for our local organization to take part with the government in doing such activity. Okay, so let's start with the no poverty. So in the idea here is end poverty in all its forms everywhere. We see poverty everywhere, right? We see in all aspects, especially in like our country, which is living in a third world, which is a third world one, and we see a highly urbanized nation. We have a highly urbanized city as well as a very serene rural areas, but the imbalance within our community creates poverty. Why? Because of course, jobs, resources, right, and unfair practices. So poverty is present, and we cannot just say it's exclusive to us. Poverty, excuse me, di lang yan pang Pilipinas. Baka other people would think that it's because only Philippines has this kind of poverty rate. No, poverty is everywhere. Okay. So what are the key facts here? poverty remain one of the core issues of the 21st century, no matter where we go. So while the Millennium Development Goals, which is the MDG before 2000 to 2015, have succeeded in halving the number of people living in less than 1.25 or approx 60 pesos per day, which is until now present pa rin naman, right? There are still people living in the 60 peso per day na no. Some 836 million people still live in extreme poverty. The most poverty-stricken regions remains in Southern Asia and Sub-Saharan Desert, primarily in small and politically unstable countries. Sa African countries, most likely. But in Southern Asia, India, even though they're economically stable, but due to the number of their population, hindi mo pa rin ma-deny the poverty exists still them. Other countries also in the Indian subcontinent, and of course here in our regions in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Myanmar, Cambodia, we can still see those and we're living with almost same economy level. And of course, as I said, there's still people living in 1.25 or about 60 pesos per day. So that's the key fact. Now, if we try to take a look at this one, workers are twice likely to be living in young workers are twice as likely to be living in extreme poverty as adult workers. That is based on 2019. So that's why makita mo in our society right now, there are a lot of young people starts to work early. Right? They were not able to finish their schools, but they have to start working. Now they have to support their families, of course. That's their idea, right? Or they have to start their own living, because if we're going to depend on our family always, on our parents always, it's not enough. That's why they have to go on work. And those young people are the one experiencing what we call living in extreme poverty, because they have less experiences, right? So they were not able to get high paying jobs immediately. Schools not yet fully educated. They were not yet able to finish their college, or just they reached their high school, so they were just working on a job that is, how we say it, not really well paid, something like that. Okay. So if you can see, the world was abstract to end poverty by 2030. We are moving there. So most likely we have to reach 6% poverty rate. But right now, I guess 2019, we are still at 8.2% poverty rate. But due to, I guess, there are still things that we need to look into until 2030. Still the war is there. What else? You see, just right now, even though Philippines is not affected by directly affected by the war that is happening in Europe right now, you see how it affects us economically, and how it becomes a burden to each and everyone here. You see, the prices goes up. The due to the petroleum price, that's one of the idea. That's one uses of it is for transportation of goods and services, as well as the transportation of the people from their home to places of their jobs. That it really affects everything. You see, that's why we cannot just say we are on track and we'll reach there without doing anything. So we have to take a look at it, calibrate how can we integrate our skills reaching there. Now, plus add pa the COVID. Okay, here comes the COVID that increases the global poverty in the decade. So see, parang like a lot of people loses jobs. A lot of people were able to stop their resources, the productions of the resources. A lot of people got lost their jobs. No more no more earnings. So yung nagkakaproblema lalo. Thank God we have been provided with ayuda, even though it's small, it is ayuda. Diba? It still helps us live. But it will not go on forever, right? there comes extreme disasters and poverty. Hello, we cannot deny that Philippines is the welcoming committee of the typhoons from the Pacific. We always accept and welcome wholeheartedly all the typhoons from the Pacific. That's why even Yolanda, we welcome it just like that. And just recently, we know the typhoon just hit us. So that also affects things, right? And you see, just what we do, simple things of providing water, providing enough food for just to a band-aid solution most likely for the situation, which is most likely that's the only thing that we can do for that time. But still, it's kind of it's kind of a remedial thing na nagawa natin for the for the for the society, for the community. So 4 billion people did not benefit from any form of social protection in 2016. Oh. So, 'di ba? I don't know, but in the Philippines masyado mababa pa rin yung ano natin when it comes to insurances, right? So, poverty level pa rin yung ano natin. So, let's talk about the relevance for cities. Many poverty-affected regions in the world will soon be home to growing urban population. We are now converting farmlands to highly urbanized cities. And as over 60% of the area expected to be urban by 2050 remains to be built, mostly in the global south. So in our country, we know that we are starting to urbanize our communities. So dati-dati, we see farmlands, now we see malls in the farmlands. Beside farmlands, may mall. Di ba? May mga ganon. So we're trying to work on. But the urban setting can offer new dwellers for greater scope of job opportunities. That's the advantage economically. The more economic activities there, the more jobs can be. And the more people will have work. That increases the standard of living and empower them to make decisions about their lives. However, while poverty is an old issue, urban poverty is the new challenge for the international development agenda. You see, people, we are all not the same, right? If some of us can cope up with the increase of urbanization, there are a lot of people also that cannot join us. They are dwellers still below that line of the progress. We can see, maybe because of the presence of our education, the presence of our current situation of living, we can easily adapt to the urbanization of the community. But how about those others? That's why they were being what? Cast out. They are not anymore, no. Baga, they cannot dwell anymore in the city because the city is growing and they cannot cope up. It's still the same with the idea of Darwin on the ang tawag that survival of the fittest, and they cannot be with us. They cannot be considered fittest unless they will work on. And how? That's why they have what? We have those squatters, we have those street dwellers. They're trying to survive in this fast and rapid growth of urbanization. That's why we see them, because they cannot cope up. Di ba? Alam natin because when living in a city, it requires more expensive living. And they cannot easily cope with that, right? The inflations and everything. So this is often exacerbated by inefficient, unequal land use and housing market, lack of access to basic services, and existing socio-economic traps in both urban and rural areas. You see, people tends to go to the city, to the highly urbanized city, because they always think of that life is there, work is there, money is there. So, but in reality, not everyone can be accommodated in the urban places. So, how we, as young active citizens, how are we going to take part of that issue? We're not going to feed them, right? Hindi naman tayo going to do an everyday feeding program because we cannot do that. But take a look at it on a long-term idea. How are we going to take part on that kind of action? Will that be enough to just leave them there? Di ba? Hindi yan siya pwede. But maybe in some ways, we can be there to take a look at on how are we going to take part. So let's take a look at the relevance to the local government. Because of the variety matters affecting poverty, the roles and responsibilities of local governments differ significantly across the world. Okay, so good governance to inclusively meet the needs of the urban poor, promote accountability and transparency. Oh, maybe we can take part in it. Right now, meet the needs of the urban poor by promoting accountability and transparency. Targeting urban housing, planning and architectural design that impacts the creation and distribution of wealth, both in the newly built and already existing high-risk urban neighborhood. There are organizations who has a lot of money who can build housing, but they don't have the skills, right? So maybe we, the young JCs, could take part with our skills in helping that. Pwede, right? More skills, madaling matapos ang mga activities, we'll be able to take part on that one. Enhancing a system of equal opportunities by providing information on how to recover from disaster and escape poverty traps. O, di ba? Sharo, yan, wala na yung gasto, ha? You're just going to provide information. We can do that as a JCs, right? We can be like, how about let's say go on a community and conduct financial training for the organizations in the community to help them understand how they're going to recover from disasters and how they're going to manage their financial status. That's one way. Boosting inclusive education to enhance employability. Ayan. Sanay tayo dyan. May mga trainings tayo for what? For employment. We help people to be employed. Madali lang yan siya. We can take part on that one. And of course, fostering business ethics of local businesses, communities whose operations have directly impacted the poor and communities. So yung kumbaga, makita mo na, uy, yung CSR of a certain organization is really why not let's join them? Offer them our services, our organization, organization service to, let's say, to some congressmen who are doing this CSR to make it broader. For some companies na ito yung CSR nila, they cannot go beyond that because what? They don't have the resource, they don't have the manpower, but we can, right? So we can just work on it. Integrate our skills with that one. Okay. Then now let's proceed to the second second SDG. So in this case, if there is no poverty, the idea kasi looks backward, right? It's a moving backward process. For us to reach the no poverty point, dapat not everyone is not hungry, right? Everyone should not be hungry. Yun yung isang indicator natin that poverty will end up because everyone has enough food for them. That's just an indicator. But most of kumbaga, yan yung pinaka-importanting indicator, right? It's not about that you have a lot of money. If you're still hungry, you're still poor in a way. Kaya nga mismo sometimes when we see somebody's payat kanang niwang na kayo, like even though she's using luxury things, we always keep on saying, nagugutom ka na ba? Wala kay kwarta. Niwang na lagi kay, di ba? So that tendency is like, even though you're wearing your luxury things, we will think of you as a poor if you're thin, di ba? Or diet lang, walay kwarta, di ba? Good. So we have to achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote our sustainable agriculture. Yan. So, key facts. Nutrition is one of the basic human needs. And since 1990, the number of undernourished people in developing countries has decreased by nearly half. Thank God, because we have a lot of foods now in Delata. And that could be easily transported, right? Or it could easily be cooked. Pancit Canton is the Pancit Canton number 1. And accounting now for 13% of our total population. Now, while some developed countries suffer from overconsumption-related malnutrition, yeah, let's talk about the potato couch people there with their fat bellies. Still, most developing countries still experience the burden of extreme hunger. Kaya nga sinasabi natin always maraming nagugutom sa mundo. Kaya please lang, huwag kayong magsayang ng food. 1 in 9 people globally, which is about 795 million, is undernourished. Poor nutrition of children adversely affect their education and therefore creates a vicious cycle of poverty and hunger for the future generation. Ang hirap when it comes to food. Labanan talaga yan. Kaya sa Pilipino, we know what matters what matters wherever we go. Food is our comforter. No, ang Pilipinas kahit saan ka lumingon, there are food. There is food, restaurants, sidewalks, wherever you go, andyan ang food. Because that's really basic. In the Philippines, the mostly successful businesses are food. Because everybody in the Philippines, everyone eats. But then again, the problem is in the Philippines, marami pa rin nagugutom. What's wrong? What happened? With all those food restaurants and everything around us, what happened? Bakit meron pa rin tayo nakikitang somebody outside the Jollibee knocking yun, like doing ganyan kamay sa labas ng ano? What's wrong? Because we have imbalance when it comes to our resources. You see, food insecurity was already on the rise. Kumbaga, we already nagkakaroon tayo ng problema because of the population affected by moderate or severe food insecurity. It increases to 26.4%. Okay? Dumagdag pa ang pandemic. Diyos ko, kakaroon tayo ng mga pest. Nagkakaroon ng climate, due to the climate change. Andiyan pa yung conflict. Andiyan pa yung COVID-19. Okay? Now, stunting and wasting among children are likely to worsen. Just lalo-lalo na yung rice. Grabe. Just there are a lot of people, if you go to the market, you will see yung sa mga gabaligya bugas, rice are just thrown there sa baba, wasted. And we don't care. There's a lot of it that's been and it's really alarming. We cannot just do it like that. People we can feed already a lot of people with that one. 21.3% or about 144 million of children under 5 are stunned. And 6.9 are affected by wasting. Small-scale food producers are hit hard by the crisis. So, hirap. Now, what is the relevance to the cities? Most of the world's hungry people still live in rural areas of Asia and sub-Saharan Africa, where agriculture is the main rural employer. Tingnan mo agriculture is the life. But then the problem is the hungry people are there sa area na yun where agriculture is. Because, what happened? Because therefore, the expected urbanization trend will just direct impact on the life of these people. Kumbaga, it's supposed to be a good place to get food. Pero ang nangyayari, what? We change the farmlands to housing. We change the farmlands to mall areas, to business complex. So where are we going to get the food, right? So that's why we tend to become like most people become hungry. Tapos suddenly we look down on the people who are farmers. We look down on them. And tendency, what makes them feel? They feel that they look at us down, so I have to work, I have to become an executive and work in the urban area. Wala nang farmer. Konti na lang farmer, then we complain. Wala tayong food. We complain that we import food from other places. Because it's tend to be a warfare also psychologically towards the people who are supposed to be there. We don't support them. People are not supporting our local farmers. Diba? Both morally and how you say it, not just on buying it a good price, but we also look them at some of us still look at them in the low part of the society, not because they provide us food. Consequently, the rural farm that produce food in urban areas and system that manages distribution and access carry the shared responsibility to end hunger, as the solution to hunger depends on both food production and its management in transportation, refrigeration, something like that. So management to access of access to food is especially relevant in city as they have capabilities to ensure that food chains and infrastructure are resilient to disaster. You see what happens to highly urbanized cities like let's say the Metro Manila, that when the problem say yung there were some cases na lock yung mga roads from Baguio to Manila and some other northern Luzon areas due to typhoons and everything, nasira yung mga roads and transport of goods cannot happen. What happens to the prices of goods in Metro Manila? It skyrocket sobra that they are all complaining because it's expensive. The question is why? Because they cannot afford. It's not because they cannot afford the food, but because they don't have their basket of food. They don't have their own they don't have their own source of food. That's the effect of urbanization. So how are we going to take care of that? Let's say how can we take part on the idea of helping having food at your own backyard without depending on the places. Madali lang mag-plant ng mga madali lang mag-plant ng some of the veggies around at your backyard if you have spaces. You can plant small veggies, but rather than just planting your luxury plants over there being yung plantita, why not utilize your pagka-plantita and pagka-plantito and turn growing bawang, sibuyas, tomatoes at your backyard, some okra or talong or kalabasa. And when those things grew up in 2 to 3 months, you have something to harvest, or just put a papaya tree at the backyard and leave it there near your septic tank. It will grow a good one. Promise. It's a yellowish sweet papaya. Something like that. It's a good practice. And JC, I can help us on the backyard agriculture. Sinasabi nga natin, backyard agriculture is a good thing that we can help promote as a young citizen. So furthermore, the problem of nutritional quality is an even greater challenge. Many urban areas have already experienced the double burden of malnutrition. High rates of both poorly malnourished people and people with obesity living side by side. Kikita naman natin yan, no? Yung when we walk in our community, makita natin na overweight people, then suddenly sa side is parang, just ko walang kain. What happened to the world? We need to balance things out. We have to understand how are we going to do that. Okay? So relevance to the government. So strengthening governance related to food production, distribution, and consumption cycles. So can we take part on this? Yes. Right? We can. Governance and related food production, distribution, and consumption. Maybe in the consumption part. Okay, maybe in the consumption part. Distribution, we also do that, right? We promote products of our communities through our let's say our projects of fundraising, helping them. So that would be a good part. Supporting local, efficient, and sustainable agricultural production, backyard farming, something like that. Promoting new sustainable method of acquiring, preparing, and eating food. Yung urban gardening, cooperatives, and food sharing concepts. That's why it's really good that I know that if we can if the Zoom girls could move forward from being just to something na we can share now of how to prepare simple foods like that, healthy foods from the backyards, maybe YouTube channel and the podcast, like it would be helpful. You know what, girls, bakit malaki kasi yung influence niyo towards others like when they see that people are healthy, there are a lot of you who are so look good, tapos when they see you doing this, they would be inspired. I would just like as beautiful as the Zoom girls if I do this. So I'll follow you, then see what are you doing, something like that. You can have a good influence towards them. And then implementing integrated educational programs on healthy nutrition. Yeah, you're always doing this. We can always do that. Go there and share that you want to be sexy like Franny, or something like that. Diba? Or like as beautiful as Press Janelle. Come on, we do this and you do that. Okay, so drink lemon water or what? So use your influence. Be the role model of healthy living and laugh. You can do that. Promise. Okay. Thank you. So now talking about that no hunger. Of course, it's not just enough that you are not hungry anymore, but you should be healthy at the same time. So we need to ensure that healthy lives and promote well-being for all the ages. You see the idea na it's not just about ending the hunger of the people, but ensure that whatever we feed them is for their healthy lives. So key facts: physical and mental health has an impact on many aspects of human life that is hard to address sustainable development without taking it into consideration. Lalo na yung yung mental health, that really pag na-depress, iniwan, gibilin, gipinalitan, na-depress na noon, nanikaon, so nangayayat, whatsoever. So mental health is really disastrous. Until now, we can still say to each other, laban pa, kaya pa nato ni. Kaya pa dira, inside, kaya. But we have to take a look at this one because this is really difficult part. Lalo na. In the last decade, significant progress has been made. Marami na, especially in the idea of maternal health, like that, or even the idea of the HIV infections in the society. Maternal mortality has decreased by almost half since 1900, and HIV infections decreased by 38% between 2001 to 2013. But take note, right now we have a problem in the Philippines with this one. It's growing, and the Philippines is has the fastest infection in terms of HIV. Now, still, each year, over 6 million children die before reaching their 5th birthday. Further, newer health-related issues such as substance abuse, traffic accidents, air and waterborne pollution, diseases are become more widespread. So these are the things that we are encountering when we talk about the health problem. So take note, illnesses and death from communicable diseases will spike. Pag hindi natin yan siya na take care, malaria, pandemic also interrupted the childhood immunization program. Kita ninyo, for the past 2 years, medyo tagilid talaga tayo ngayon when it comes to immunization. Parents don't like to go out, and health workers were locked up in their hospitals to work on with the pandemic. So healthcare disruptions reverse the case of improvements. Na talaga, we were dragged down. Less than half of the global population is essentially covered by health services. Di ba? Napaka-few. That's why you see overcrowded ang ating mga hospitals, overwhelmed sila lahat. Okay? Progress in many health areas are continued but need acceleration. In this thank God tuberculosis is almost over because of our good conducts and practices for preventing and but child health has a problem pa rin. Maternity health, nandiyan pa rin tayo. Lalo na sa immunization, ang daming takot magpa-immunize. Until ngayon, no? Di ba? There are still a lot of anti-vaxxers. They don't want to be vaccinated. So how are you going to take care of that? Paano tayo will be able to help us in that aspect. So in many ways, spatial or urban planning determines how healthy people are. The health of people is affected by proper housing and sanitation, access to food, health and medical facilities, as well as air quality and availability of green spaces. This factor differs when exploring the urban versus the rural context. Because of high population density in urban areas, yung epidemics of HIV, malaria, TB, air, waterborne, and infectious diseases can spread much faster. That's why in the city, nandoon matataas ang cases ng COVID, ng infections. Andoon kasi madali ang infections sa dami ng tao. Access to addictive substance, tobacco, health, drugs, and alcohol is also easier in urban areas, and substance abuse is, as a result, more common. Concentrations of people means greater demand for services, with dense areas also typically leading to more pollution, such as waste and air pollution. Cities also tends to have higher concentrations of people with fewer family and social bonds than rural areas. You see, maybe we see a lot of places to be together in the cities, pero because of the distance, because of the busyness that we work on with our daily activities, we tend to have a fewer family and social bonds. We are more of I know you cannot deny it, even you doing your JCI things makes you have a fewer family time in with that. Finally, aging populations in many regions means that human settlement increasingly need to be adapted and designed to meet the needs of older people. Pilipinas mahirap talaga eh. We can see in other countries that it's they are senior citizen friendly. Pilipinas hindi ka talaga aabot ng senior citizen dahil sa ay Diyos ko, mauna ka mamatay sa high blood kesa sa kesa sa pollution or whatsoever, because you see the density of the community. We have to create we have to make our services available to the older one. That's why in the case of JCs, how are we going to integrate our part lalo na in the aging people. Yan ang isa eh. We always nakakaligtaan natin yung mga aging people. We always keep on like helping communities, whatsoever, helping children, nandyan tayo. But we did not even consider to take a look at that. There are aging people that we can take a look into. Okay. So that's it. Now let's proceed to the quality education. This ensures an inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. See, health, people who wants to be healthy needs to be educated so that they will be able to know paano maging healthy. Tama? So pag they will have a good quality education, they were able to understand how to become healthy. So quality education is necessary to tackle poverty and achieve progress in all aspects of sustainable development. Take note that since 2000, significant advancement has been made towards literacy rate and enrollment in primary education and in developing countries. Thank God in the Philippines, we have a free primary and secondary education. And even in the college right now, we have a good standing with our free education. Despite continuous population growth by the number of out-of-school youth children, decreased by 42% globally between 2000 and 2012. Still, 57 million children remains out of school, and majority of them in sub-Saharan Africa. Thank God in the Philippines they don't have a problem with that one. Additionally, education still severely affected by the number of existing and partially growing socioeconomic inequalities, gender, race, and income. Alam natin yan. Yan yung goal, yan yung problema natin sa Pilipinas. Especially we are all Filipino pero may pagka-racist din tayo. Not on the different nationalities. Even on our fellow Filipinos, napaka-racist natin. We distinguish like Bisaya kasi yan, something like that. Or let's say lumad kasi yan siya. So hindi siya pwede dito. That kind of racism is really rampant, and lalong-lalo na in the aspect of income. Wala kang pera? Sorry ka, you cannot go to this super social school with aircon and super high quality Starbucks cafeteria. Something like that. And you cannot do this You cannot go to school right now because you don't have an iPod and an internet connection. So you see that's it's a growing problem. And how are we going to help that? There are a lot of things that's happening around. In that case, you see, remote learning remains out of reach for at least 500 million students. Imagine, nagka-pandemic tayo, then we detach lahat. So, who are able to get back to learning? Sino yung nakakapag-aral? Those who can only afford. But those who cannot, tanga sa bahay. So how did the learning go? We don't know, right? 79% of in low income countries, children's school competition rate is 79% and 30% lang on the poorest of the household. 95% of the school were closed during the pandemic. See? And then over 200 million children will still be out of school in 2030. So how are we going to take part in that? You have to see what are we going to do. I know ZUGS has their diba? ZUGS has their education program, I guess, right? No, meron tayo nun, Press.
Yeah, but I think not yet for now, like for this year. Last time we had.
Last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can still remember that one. Yeah, I know. So how are you going to take part of it? And maybe we can just see. We'll be able to see that what we can do. But still, affected pa rin naman yan siya ng ano natin. So, to the cities, urbanizations and quality educations are closely linked. The more urbanized the city, there are a lot of quality educations been. Historically, cities have been hubs for knowledge and creations of center of innovation. The overall national education system, literacy and culture, often depends on progress made in the city to show the way in attaining literacy rate and developing cutting-edge sciences. Now, at the same time, many of today, as many of the socioeconomic inequalities in urban areas as in rural are widening, such as poverty, nutrition, age, and gender gaps, making them amongst the biggest challenges for local government. Lalong-lalo na sa ano natin, sa community natin, many people cannot access education due to the distance. Kaya yung schools, yung hahabulin yung schools to go there. And meron tayong mga volunteer teachers, meron tayong mga ganyan. But still, it's not enough because of that, because of mostly concentrated sa urban areas. But still, we still have a lot of rural areas. Yun ang ano natin. Yun yung pinaka idea of this, wala nang problema sa rural areas because everybody can be accommodated here. But the point there is how about the urban areas, the rural areas? How about those in the far-flung areas? They will not receive equally the quality of education that the urban areas receive. So to the local government, improving education governance related to the public education facilities that promotes inclusion, accountability, and quality. Tapos, integrating technical and vocational training programs to the local economic development strategies. We JCIs, a lot of JCI local organizations are doing that. They provide tested trainings for the communities, yung mga cooperatives. That's one good thing that helps them. In JCI Davao right now, we have this project, tawag nila dito is Project Breadwinner, wherein we're going to train mga breadwinners na students and young adults to bake bread and provide them material so that they can pursue their this is a TESDA accredited training for them so that in the near future if they want to do business in bread making, andyan na siya. So sustainable, at least help them So fostering cooperations between different schools, research institutions and local businesses. Tayo, I guess JCIs are we usually partners with schools. May mga ganyan opportunity tayo to have a cooperations with them in terms of education. Kami, we partners with schools for the books, something like that. Okay? And then reach out to high risk and vulnerable citizens and neighborhoods and ensure they have access to education training, fulfilling UNESCO's Education for Sustainable Development Initiative. We have our libro para sa Batang Katutubo, and thank God Zubuana has been helping us with this for the past years already. So I'm so happy, and again, maybe this year we'll still continue with that one. Okay, now let's go to the gender equality. Achieving, when we talk about education is not just about it's not just about learning, but also learning to live with the diverse kind of people around us. And that is through the idea of gender equality. Achieving gender equality and empower all women and girls. Yan. Go girls. Pinay power, sabi nga nila. The new goal clearly recognized that gender equality is critical element in achieving sustainable development. Come on, girls are the best. When we talk about women, they're, of course, they cook best. They have, baga, what's life without them? Parang ganon. Until now, major progress has been made under MDG 3 towards gender empowerment, resulting in equal access to primary educations in many regions. Meron pa rin yung mga ganon na still, I don't know, in Arab countries, there are still who are practicing not allowing women for education, yung mga ganon. So, ganon pa rin tayo sa problema when it comes to gender equality. Still, women and girls are more often actively affected than men and boys by poverty, di ba? Food insecurity and environmental pollution. Their voices and leaderships are crucial to finding solution. Therefore, SDG 5 aims at ending discriminations and violence against women and girls, ensuring that they have equal opportunities in life that boys and men have. So yan ang goal natin, equality. Because despite improvements, full gender equality remained unreached. Bigat pa rin siya. Then, women must be represented fairly. Sa pandemic, tingnan niyo napaka-konti in the local governments and in the parliaments around the world. And of course, lockdown increased the risk of violence against women and girls, physical, sexual, psychological, that have increased by 30% in some countries. Of course, in our country also we have a problem, but most of the problem here is women are the most one in the front lines. Mas maraming babae in the medical field that faces the COVID than the men. So women bears additional household burden during the pandemic, especially the moms kasi nasa bahay na. So si mama, si ate ang in charge sa most of the time sa family activities. Women already spend about 3 times as many hours on unpaid domestic and care work as men. So I guess with this problem, we can see now, it's already an eye-opening for us. Lalo-lalo na dito sa COVID-19 implications on the violence against women and girls. Maybe we can do something about this, right? So relevance to the cities. Cities offer opportunities for social, economic, cultural, and political participation that facilitates gender empowerment. Meron tayong ginagawa ng mga ganyan, activities that facilitating gender empowerment. Indeed, global urbanization tends to go hand in hand with the feminization of our global labor force. Yung kumbaga, it doesn't need to be hindi naman ibig sabihin na it's just a work for men. It's just a work for men. Meron tayong tinatawag na feminization. Ibig sabihin, yun yung way on which we fit the work, yung mag-a-adjust for the women capability. Yung kumbaga, hindi siya hindi lang siya hindi yung babae yung mag-a-adjust for that job, but yung kumbaga i-modify yung job so that it would fit on the capacity and capabilities of the women in labor force. Yet due to the prevalence of gender inequalities, women and girls often benefit less from urbanization and urban spaces than men and boys, often based on discriminatory ground over which they have no or little control. Such attributes are often not only gender, race, ethnicity, or age, but also inherited income and status. So these inequalities are especially manifested in illegal settlements where levels of vulnerability disproportionately affects women, youth, and children. Addressing such cross-cutting issues in cities has direct impact on breaking vicious circle of social exclusion. So you see, really nandyan talaga yan siya ang problema when it comes to the city, densely populated cities. So relevance to the local government, implement and monitor programs to address inequality and discrimination. Usually, ito yung pinaka namin ginagawa in schools. Even within the classroom, we have to implement the programs to address that kind of inequality inside our classrooms. Act as a model for gender equality through non-discriminatory service provisions to citizens and fair employment practices. Example, gender equality on local councils. So yan, dito, we can, lalo-lalo na yung mga local organizations that are all girl group, all female local organizations, you can act as a model for gender equality by providing non-discriminatory services. Ensure that relevant financial support and business support and business services are gender responsive, microcredit for women. Hindi ibig sabihin dahil babae siya, hindi na masyadong supportive sa mga businesses and financial activities. Target maternity and child care benefit as well as workforce integration trainings. You can partner with your local barangay on this one. I know a lot of local organizations of female na ganito yung ginagawa nila about they target health on maternity and childcare benefits. enhance responsive urban planning, smart and mixed use of land and public places that are geared toward equally towards both gender and young children. One thing here is supporting communities that provides, let's say, breastfeeding areas. Meron akong mga alam na organizations like that. They LOs that they support putting up safe place for breastfeeding moms. Ganon. So that's enhancing responsive urban planning. Tapos yung that helps support this women. And of course, women's organization, involving women organization and stakeholder na dialogues. Hindi yun lang puro yung mga barangay, yung sa mga dialogues natin within the community, yung always nagde-decide is yung mga men. We have always to get lalong-lalo na if your project is all about women, be sure naman na yung priority nyo kausapin is yung mga mothers or women in the group. And then don't let the guys decide for the women over there. Let just them be part of the decision. But again, you have to give the chance to the lalo yung mga project ninyo if it involves women. Okay, now let's take a look at to the clean water and sanitation naman. This is now the aspect of yes, Faith, you're raising hand. Baby J Faye, Mary, sorry, Mary Faye. She's raising her hand eh.
BB Faye, are you there?
Oh, wala na. Baka napindot lang siguro niya.
Okay.
Baka napindot lang ni Faye. So, okay. So let's now talk about the clean water and sanitation. Dito tayo in the aspect of kumbaga, this is the micro part of the SDG which also affects everyone. And thank God this one is really this one was really practiced during the typhoon time last December. We were sinigurado natin that the main thing usually is the water for everybody. Key facts. Should the global population reach 9.6 billion by 2050, better management of water and sanitation is needed to sustain human well-being while preserving the resilience of ecosystems. Significant progress has been attained between 1990 to 2015. As the proportion of global population with access to improved drinking water sources have increased from 76 to 91%. Ngayon, over 2.5 billion people do not have access to basic sanitation facilities globally. CR, yan. Alam mo, it's not a thing na we can keep on. Marami pa rin tayo makita that their CR is just over there. What? Tawag dyan, Creek area. You know that? I know. You can see that in Cebu areas also, or even in the coastline, somewhere in the coastline na yung mga may mga bahay diyan that they don't have their proper proper comfort rooms, that their CR is just somewhere there and it's floating. Okay, so yan ang problema natin. And of course we have a problem with the water supply unevenly distributed around the world, especially in the developing world. This adversely affect economic, gender development, food security, and waterborne diseases. Ang dami niyang apekto eh. That's why in the case of during the typhoon last year, sinigurado namin that one of the main thing that we can produce is water. That's why we send water to those communities. We try to find way in which we can provide water. Thank you to SG Sherwin for initiating that idea for JCI Davao. We were able to send about 200 to 300 ata na water gallons with water for the Siargao na and Dinagat Islands. Yun kasi ang importante because just as we kept on saying na if we don't have clean water, nagkakaproblema tayo sa food and then diseases. So if we try to see here, despite progress, billions still lack of water. safe drinking water, and then people still have a lack of safely managed sanitation. 2 in 5 healthcare facilities worldwide have no soap and water or alcohol-based hand rub. You see, siguro one of the way na rin na nangyari sa COVID is we learned how to wash our hands and we learned to take care of using alcohol in our hands. Siguro that's a good tawag dyan, a good waking up call for us that honestly just by their washing hands we were able to save lives already. Millions of diseases are already eliminated. Millions of people were already saved from dying on a certain diseases. But then the problem is, kulang pa rin siya. And thank God, siguro it's already a blessing na rin na because of the pandemic, ang dami nagka-initiate na to produce hand washing facilities and people were started to wash their hands properly. It's not just like about doing it in the school for the purpose of pictorial and then washing things. Right now, it's already a practice among a lot of us. And of course, if water scarcity continues, 700 million people will be displaced. That's a big problem. Kaya in this case, we have to take a look at on how can we because this is not just about water. It also affects what? It also affects the health. It also affects the education kasi pag nagkasakit yung bata or the person because of the water disease, maapektuhan yung education niya, maapektuhan ng health niya, maapektuhan ng kanyang life. Babalik siya sa poverty. Babalik tayo. We will still go back down to the poverty level. So ano yung relevance natin for the city? Poor sanitation combined with irregular water supply hinders development and claim the lives of countless people. It's not just hinders development, hindi lang yung nagkakaproblema sa development. It even claim lives. Okay? So maraming nagkakasakit sa diarrhea, maraming nagkakasakit sa typhoid fever, with whatever sakit related to the waterborne diseases, especially in the slum areas of the urban kasi nga because of the lack of water. These challenges are likely to magnify in the future due to the ever-growing city populations at hindi na kaya yan lahat. Pag marami na masyado sa city, what happens? Di ba? Okay lang sa urban areas, we can just swim on the sapa. Di ba? Something like that. We can get water with that one. But how about in the urban area? Saan sila magsiswim? Sa creek? It's going to be a problem, right? So being the primary factor that increase water, air, soil, and food contamination, lack of proper access to water in dense urban area exponentially increase local pollution problem. Okay, while existing urban water distribution and sanitation systems are too often run down and unable to cope with the growing urban expansion, where growth demand is difficult to foresee and plan for. Newly built systems often lack inclusions and resilience as the urban poor tends to be excluded from these services. Why? It's supposed to be free. Water is supposed to be free, right? But tendency, you see the water bottle? Magkano ang isang water bottle na you buy at the mall? 20 pesos. Who dared buy a 200 ml of water for 20 pesos? Diba? Imagine that. That's going to be a problem, no? That's kind of how are we going to make this balance to the society? Then when we see others people having a problem with water. So in the local government, maintaining existing and designing new waterway supply system with a long-term perspective, cross-cutting regional problems such as industrial development or source of scarcity impact urban water supply. Usually, ito lang talaga yung we can do help that preserving our water sources. Yan yung pwede nating we can help do preserve water sources. Yung monitoring and ensuring that water resources are accessible and shared fairly. Yan. And supporting horizontal cooperations in planning environmental policy. Usually yung mga planting around watershed, we can do that, right? That's one thing that we can do. That's adapting challenges such as in the European cities na mag-demand that heavy rainfall sanitation problem. Meron din tayong mga ginagawa that we provide water purification systems on our community. That's just one thing. In our part sa JCI Davao, we provided that ang project namin yung project ni SG Sherwin back again, yung water pump nila through the solar, so that they provide waters to the community without them having spent a lot. Okay, now how about affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all? Sabi nga is, pag walang kuryente, na more problema tayo din. Okay? So, key facts, this is a call on leaders to accelerate sustainable energy, central to almost every major issues in energy supply had been made in many developing regions in the last decade. Okay, 1/5 of the global population still lacks access to electricity. Diba? Imagine nyo, wifi lang gani mawala sa ito, mabuang na ta, wala kung sa pakana, walay kuryente. Diba? So, how? The quality of energy supply is another issue. The global energy supply still consists of widespread use of fossil fuel. The transition to renewable energy is at the heart of its SDG. So siguro ang pwede nating gawin, we cannot produce naman siguro energy in our way, but we can promote green energy in our activities. Tulad ng ginawa ni na SG Sherwin, rather than relying creating a point where people rely on the electricities for their water pump, we introduced the green energy of solar, the solar energy for them to utilize. Na we provided the materials for the solar energy so that yun na lang magpa-power up ng kanilang water supply, so that water supply will be consistent and sustainable. So see, 789 million people lack electricity as of 2018. Only 17% share of renewable into the total energy consumption as of 2017. Energy efficient improvements rate falls short of 3% target. In short, affordable and reliable energy is still critical for health facilities because 1 in 4 not electrified. Okay, so paano yun? Paggabi, they were not able to accommodate their patients. Okay, so how are we going to help them? We don't have that kind of million of pesos to provide them, but how are we going to step up and be able to promote this kind of development, especially in the idea of sustainable energy? Okay, so relevance to the city, every person needs energy for cooking, heating, cooling, mobility. Now, in cities, most energy is consumed in the building, transport, waster and waste sector, with the greenhouse gas emission released due to the burning of fossil fuels. Rural areas, on the other hand, often have available renewable resources that could be used to establish a win-win circular economy in the region. Now, the geographical condition of the urban areas as well as their design and planning will determine their energy demands, the mix of energy sources, and the distance needed to be covered by distribution grids, moving toward a more decentralized and smart system. Take note, in the city area, this is the more complicated part, why everybody depends on it. Pero how are we going to be relevant when it comes to affordable and clean energy? We can in the basic part, we can be through the information dissemination. You can see that my encounter ako project, one of the project of JCIs, I forgot what LO was that. Information dissemination and energy consumption. They sponsor stickers, information stickers that helps that reminds people like to turn off air cons when they're not in use, something like that. It's just a simple activity, simple information drive that is being posted on the let's say in the restaurant, yung aircon area ng restaurant, yung sa hotels, ganon. And remind lang na that reminds people to turn off the when not in use. So it's a good thing to do. So for the government, medyo malaki-laki ang trabaho ng government at this, especially in the but leadership, then developing design and redesign neighborhood to reduce energy demands. Yan. So, tutulungan natin, usually we help government on that one, especially on in the idea of redesigning the consumptions. So introduce energy saving criteria. Yun, tulad nga sinabi ko, energy saving criteria such we provide communities with information na to turn off the lights, ganyan, just by putting information drive on the communities. And of course, promote smart system. Okay? Lalo-lalo na sa mga batteries and energies. Okay. So my energy, therefore, for us to be able to proceed with that, kung may energy na, may proper kailangan na natin ng work and economic growth. This is at the point wherein the society must be able to have an inclusive, sustained, and sustainable economic growth and productive employment and decent work for all. Kasi bakit? Pag wala nito, people will go back down to inequality, hunger, lack of education, health problems, suddenly end up with balik sa poverty again. So, yun ang So, tingnan nyo, sabi ko nga sa inyo, these are just domino effect. Okay? So, a sustainable economy has an impact on practically on all aspects of human life and well-being. While many positive steps has been made to overcome different financial crises, global unemployment has increased from 170 million to 202 million. Lalong-lalo na that 2.2 billion people still live below the $2 poverty line, 100 peso per day. Stable and well-paid jobs are needed to tackle poverty traps. Sustainable economic growth requires society to create the condition that stimulates sustainable business development and job creation. Take note, while safeguarding environmental sustainability. Though the creation of such employment will remain a major challenge for the whole development agenda. Take a look at this. Global economic growth is slowing down. Masyado ng mababa. Lalo-lalo na when we have the COVID, where nagkaroon ng maraming economic recession. Tourism is facing an unprecedented challenge due to COVID. Nagkaroon ng baba ng tourism And during the pandemic, 1.6 billion workers in the informal economy risk losing their livelihood. COVID-19 could cause equivalent of 400 million job losses in second quarter of 2020. See, that's a really implicate. This is the problem that we have to take a look at it. And from this problem, we'll be able to, how are we going to come up with this a solution for this one using our own resources? So in cities, today generate nearly 80% of the global GDP. They are world major powerhouses of global economic growth and local center of economic productions and consumption activities, especially in commerce and money distribution. Until now, no country has achieved sustained economic and social development without urbanization. Countries with the highest per capita income are usually more urbanized, while low-income countries are predominantly rural. The growth and prosperity of whole nation thus critically depends on the way urban areas evolve and the development of new inclusive economic models in the city. So in short, if economic growth is present, we have to deal with it. We cannot avoid it. We have to deal with it. So in short, how are we going to utilize our skills to help balance the adoption to urbanization? So yung mga ginagawa ng mga JCI organizations such as helping people, training them, providing them skills so that they will be able to land a job, they will able to be to be useful in the society. Parang ganon. It's one way for us to be able to provide them decent work. And by providing them with decent work, we were able to help the economy propel. So in the government, we support responsible local businesses. Thank you very much for your for most of the JCI local organizations, and they are trying to support local businesses by promoting their fellow members' businesses around it. Kasi mas effective yan siya. And with just that way, we're already doing good one. And promoting equitable labor practices at the global scale through sustainable fair trade procurement. Attract businesses and workforce through transparent and accountable practice and proper management of city budget. Enhance high-quality education to develop a skilled workforce and fight poverty. Yun yung mga tulad ng, as I was saying a while ago, the one where like providing trainings for the people. And at the same time, address youth unemployment challenge. Paano yan natin ina-address yung mga youth unemployment challenge? We provide them skills trainings. Okay? Endorse accessible and efficient transportation network that stimulate freedom of movement. I know you were able to do that last during the COVID time with Press Gale by providing bikes to the frontliners. That's one good thing here. Efficient transportation yan for the freedom of movement during those time. And of course, encourage greater citizen participation and in local economic planning. So yung parang kumbaga, when you go to the community, tapos you teach them how to raise their resources. Yung kumbaga, they have these resources, they have this fish farm na hindi na ginagamit, then you teach them how to do it. That's one thing on helping them to be able to cope up with their economic problem. Just like if you're familiar with our project Seed, wherein we are teaching the kids to utilize their cacao farm, and they're able to produce money out of it, so that the money they earn, yun yung ginagamit nila for their field of dreams na home, that yung orphanage nila, kasi the orphanage has no more international support, so they have to support themselves, and we cannot provide naman the money for them, so we teach them to utilize their cacao farm, and they now are producing their own money, and we produce their produced goods, we help them sell their produced goods naman. So andun, balik tayo sa support responsible local businesses. So parang ganun lang, it's a cycle. Okay. Now, let's move to industry, innovation, infrastructure, build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization to foster innovation. Usually, ang relate lang natin dito is industrial revolution kasi build infrastructures and manufacturing determined employment, economic development, and well-being. Now, despite incredible progress in the area, 2.6 billion people in the developing world are still facing difficulties in accessing electricity, just what we have explained a while ago sa energy, while 2.5 billion people worldwide lack access to basic sanitation. So, ang idea dito, many African countries, particularly low-income ones, lack infrastructure affects business productivity by 40%. The problem, however, is not only lack of the widespread infrastructure and industrialization, but rather also about closing the gaps between different regions that have developed industrially to meet their local needs. So ano yung mga ginagawa natin dito? In this case, yung case of we produce meron tayong mga activities na nagpo-produce yung ibang mga LOs like sanitation area, nagpo-produce sila ng mga hand washing area. That's already part of this one because we are working with that lalo na sa idea ng internet, in the field of internet. So how we can take part on that aspect. So relevance to the city, design defines the conditions for infrastructure and configure technological and social innovations, such as yung mga hand washing places na ginagawa natin for the high urban densities areas and mga schools, siguro ang mga hand washing area. Kasi during the COVID time last year, we provided hand washing area sa mga vaccination sites. Yan yung namin. Yan yung naging yung mobile hand washing site, hand washing area. Mas madali kasi yun siya so that other people can easily utilize it. Flourishing areas with ample green spaces coexist beside severely deprived neighborhood with inadequate housing, scarce services, and deficient mobility. Okay? Now, relevance to the local government, medyo I will not anymore discuss it because this is technically masyadong malaki for the government and we cannot but maybe we can just help them promote education, knowledge sharing, and scientific research for sustainable business practices. Doon siguro tayo na part lang sa last part play ng role natin. Okay. Now, let's have reduce inequalities. Anyway, this is going to be easy kasi naintindihan na natin yung gender equality. Now it's about reducing inequality. This is about races, this is about the difference of nationality. We're in according to our tenets, brotherhood of man transcends sovereignty of nation. So high level of inequality didn't just create poverty traps, they impact all aspects of human development, from education to health to food. Yan, apektado yan lahat because of inequality. Between 1990s and 2010, globally community has made significant strides towards social protection system in most regions of the world. Yet in the same period, income inequality increased by 11%. Okay? Not only is the economic gap between countries striking, inequality within countries have risen as well. Growing consensus suggests that economic growth alone is not enough to tackle poverty. Inclusiveness, universality, and sustainability of economic development will have to address the problem. Tingnan ninyo, income inequality, see, hindi balanse. Yung mga older people, vulnerable yan sila. The vulnerable ones were the older people, persons with disability, children, women, and the migrants and refugees. So these are the people who can be, who maybe we can help. They need our help in this aspect. So how are we going to take a look at that? Paano natin yan sila tutulungan? Lalo-lalo na yung mga, let's say, older people. Just like the way I said a while ago, di ba? Hindi natin masyado nakikita yan, yung mga part ng older people. Children siguro common. Women also. How about the migrants and the refugees? Mismo in our local communities, let's say the Badjaos around our roads. Andyan yan sila. And they are the vulnerable group. And what are we going to do with them? So for the cities, as we said, 80% of global GDP. Tapos, however, most of today inequalities appear to the result of multiple factors, among which are combinations of weak economic development and planning and rapid uncontrolled urbanization process. Poorly managed urban process can widen economic gaps between people and create even more inequality and social fragmentation, rather than significantly reducing poverty. Tandaan, especially say, how are you going to do it when you create a business district? Is the business district for everybody? Hindi, di ba? It's a business district that for only who can afford the business, who can afford the products of the business. That's the business district. Gagawa tayo, let's say Ayala created the complex, a business complex over there. Is that for everyone? Di ba? Hindi. It's for a tendency and exclusive part of So, nagkakaroon ng inequalities in that aspect. But then again, we cannot avoid that. Sabi nga natin sa kanina sa economic growth, we cannot avoid that. But we have to make a way to balance it. So how are we going to help balance it? So to the government, let's help the government siguro provide equal access to urban services, right? Paano? Let's say make them aware. Let's become an agent, let's say an agent in our community for the government access. Strengthen governance by promoting accountability and fighting corruption, most likely. Boost inclusive education to enhance employability. Yun. So help those senior citizens gain yung makakaya pa mag-work, help them able to find job, something like that. As well as workforce integration program para sa mga unemployed, yan, and the marginalized dwellers. Kaya naman pwede magtrabaho, let's try to help them find it. Target human set. Meron kaming ginawa niyan before tinatawag namin e-hire mo, wherein employers can put their jobs online for those who would like to find jobs. And then meron din para siya naging free naging free labor agency kami na in which yung mga tao naghahanap ng trabaho, they can just look for it on the online portal namin. So that's one of the activities that we can do. Prepare also you can prepare information on how to recover from disaster and poverty traps. Again, and of course, foster business ethics of local companies. Make cities for the sustainable cities and communities. We have to make cities and human settlement inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Siguro dito na part ito, we can deal with this. Over 3.5 million people live in cities today, while 2030, almost 75% of the people, world's population will be urban dwellers. Iniwan na natin ang nating rural area. Only 25% of the people will stay there. The total area of the city is just 2% of the Earth's land cover. However, substantial activities and process takes place in the area, which are responsible to up to 80% of overall energy use and 75% of the greenhouse gases emissions. The future achievement of SDG therefore largely depends on how cities and urban dwellers are able to transform their lifestyle towards sustainable practices. See, ito yung challenge natin for JCI. How are we going to help cities and urban dwellers transform their lifestyle towards sustainable practice? That's the challenge. How are we going to help them transform that to be in their lifestyle? Because why? Living in slums rose to 24%. Ang dami. You know, not everyone lives in condo unless we vote for Pacquiao and he will provide us condo until for the next 4 years. But I don't know, right? Only half of the world's urban population has convenient access to public transport. Di ba? And air pollution caused 4.2 premature deaths in 2016. Tapos dumagdag pa si COVID, which over 90% of the cases are present in the urban areas. Why? Because of the population density. And 40% of the people live within 400 walking distance to the open public. Anong ibig sabihin nitong, why is this a problem? Yung walking, 47% of the population lives within 400 meter of walking distance. Yung iba, alam nyo kung ilang meters they are living with the open public space? 1 meter. Paglabas ng bahay nila, kalsada. What happens? Accidents. What happens? Problems. Andyan. That's why we are trying to create yung iba nagrereklamo, they are complaining that their house is far from the main highway or whatsoever. Honestly, that's a safe space. That's even a safer space for us. It's not anymore a good na paglabas mo ng bahay mo, that 1 meter nandiyan ka sa kalsada agad, that's disaster. Honestly. So, 40% of those people live within 400 meters is already it's already a danger. That's one case. It's already a danger part. It may be convenient, but no, that's dangerous in some aspect. So SDG 11 directly addresses the relevance of cities and local government in fighting poverty and achieving sustainable development by 2030. It is of considerable political importance that the profile, responsibilities, and opportunities of the local and regional government are raised in this way. This shall also help them access financial means to implement transformative projects and infrastructure much need to make cities resilient and sustainable. Why? It's not just about the poor people living in the city. Having them also makes problem within the society. Kasi yung affected tayo sa kung ano man ang nila. What if within their slums na area, yung sakit na develop, hindi mo pwedeng hindi mo masasabi that it will just contain there. It will spread, right? So having the problem within that area will affect us all. So we have to find a way to help that area. Hindi mo i-eliminate yung area na yan. You cannot just simply eliminate that area, but how as a local organization, how can we help that area be more competitive with our community, within our community? Kasi magiging kumbaga what their problem is also our problem. If their success is also our success in this part. So here, we can ensure housing services are available, adequate and safe. Improve resilience to disaster and climate change. Diyan tayo pwedeng tumulong. Improving resilience to disaster and climate change by providing them information and especially to those neighborhoods and population groups. Reduce environmental impact, resources footprints, cities on low carbon development. You can teach them to reduce carbon footprints. Yan, material recycle, yung mga materials na natin, na nakikita can be produced into another product. So what's happening? Yung mga train, kabantay mo ng mga gina-train na mga mother groups to change their Tetra Paks to bags, to eco bags, something like that. So those are good things that we can do. It also provides them jobs. At the same time, help them have a community that is sustainable. Transition to our system, sustainable urban mobility and inclusive public transport system. We also provide access to green public spaces, engage city-region cooperation, foster variant sustainable local economies, learn from one another to leapfrog outdated development. So yung bagay, that's why ito yung sinasabi ko, what we learn, we see from other local organizations na ginagawa nila and it turns to be successful and you see the same problem here, you can also apply it. That's why we call it inspirational transformation. Yun ang tinatawag na that's the key term for our project. It should be an inspirational transformation. A transformation that may inspire others to do the same. Hindi lang yung transformation lang period. We provide project, we spend for it, but we sure whatever we spend for it makes other inspired to do the same. Okay? Kaya we don't have to keep our project. Wag na natin itago yung mga project natin for award. It's the main idea right now is to share it and be able to inspire others to do it. Okay? Now, let's have the responsible consumption and production. Ito na rin is involved ito sa health, sa no hunger, at the same time sa health. And then of course economic growth and decent work ng mga tao. Kasi if we eat too much, yung bili tayo ng something tapos wastage lang, natatapon lang, we don't anymore eat it. Parang aren't we guilty of what's happening? There are a lot of people like that. Can you see that? When they eat, and they just daghan na pa lamay pa kayo kauna but they just throw it away. Especially those who eat in unli food, samgyup and everything, you can see those foods of wastage. Parang sayang. So, human society kasi we continue to develop at its current pace and estimated that the global resource will be quadrupled within the next 2 decades. Taking urgent action today is crucial, as there is enormous potential for integrated solution to improve efficiency in terms of resource extraction, energy use, waste management. Addressing, for instance, 1.3 billion tons of food being wasted annually with both improved resources use and eliminate hunger. You see, dami nating waste. Punta lang mo punta lang kayo ng market. You go to the rice section, you can see a lot of rice waste there sa baba, just because of mismanagement of how to handle that one. Sayang. While switching off to energy efficient light bulbs all over the world could save us $120 billion annually. Helping them, give them idea of this one, people will be able to appreciate the just through the information drive that we do. Malaki we can help them by we can help the world energy crisis by sharing information that switching off lights will be helpful thing to do. Hindi lang during Earth hour, but in everyday aspect of life. You see, electronic waste grew 38%, but only 20% is being recycled. Tapos, world continue to use natural resources unsustainably. So, ang daming global footprint material as of 2017. And then comes the pandemic. So with the pandemic siguro, nagkaroon tayo ng opportunity for development recovery plans that build more sustainable future. Back to zero kasi. So how are we going now to handle food wastage? Kasi 13.8% of food is lost in supply chain pa lang. So yung distribution pa lang kakaproblema na tayo. Lalo na sa mga ang daming na-waste na food. 'Di ba? I really admire France. There was this practice sa France na yung mga restaurant at the end of the day, those food na hindi nila mabenta, those food that they were not able to sell were put in a public fridge outside their store, where those people outside na homeless can get food for free from their ref. So yun yung mga hindi nila mabenta na food for the day. Same ata, I guess there is the same practice like that somewhere in Europe. And in the Philippines, I don't think, may alam ako, pero that's just secretly. Dunkin' Donuts is doing that because I know during some time I observed there was a Dunkin' Donut area shop wherein at the end of the day, yung mga Dunkin' Donuts nila, pinamimigay nila sa mga street children. Yung mga hindi mabenta na Dunkin' Donuts of the day will be given to the street children at night, yung mga before closing time nila. So, ganon. So, tayo siguro, we can help. Maybe meron tayong mga companies na kilala or mga food services na kilala na rather than just waste their food at the end of the day, we can help them distribute it at the end of the day for the people who needs it. So that we reduce wastage. Hindi natin kakainin. we give them to the others. Okay? We provide them to ano. Okay, relevance to the city. Yan, because of the urbanization, mas malaki ang consumption. Mas maraming unli food, mas maraming consumption of water and land. But this trends also transformative powers to encourage a change in the consumer attitude. Siguro tayo, if we cannot help them in providing food, we can help them on to reduce their consumptions. We can promote reduced and responsible consumptions, right? Pwede naman siguro yon. As a public authorities such as large buyers, they are considerable market power. Purchasing decision they make can help overcome these difficulties by influencing. That's the point. Influencing the by influencing the development of new, more sustainable product and services. Smart urbanization and planning can also help to decouple growth from negative environmental impact and increase resource use. So, how are we going here? Encourage short supply chain to help reduce transport and carbon emission. Buy big. Buy big, bring back. Sabi nga ng ko dati, buy big, bring your basket. The better kasi you only are going to you encourage buy bigger kasi mas cheaper, maka-save, and at the same time less ang carbon footprint because of less utilization of transportations, right? Hindi ka Tapos let's strengthening waste management system. In here we can help. Right? As a JCI, we can help in this one. Provide citizens with knowledge, tools, and infrastructure to choose products and services with a lower resource. Okay. And then joining up with other local government, consumer business, academia, and NGOs to learn from each other and create a strong voice advocating sustainable procurement. We can take part on that one. Okay, so for the climate action, then ito na ang pinaka-problema natin. This take urgent combat action to combat climate change and its impact. Greenhouse gas emission from human activities continue to rise and accelerate climate change. Take note that global carbon dioxide emission has increased by almost 50% and now at their highest level in history. But then, this is as usual tayo, hindi yan siya feasible option. As the world average temperature natin ngayon, sobrang init and we can feel it. It is projected to rise by more than 3 degrees Celsius in the 21st century. People from all over part of the world are already experiencing significant harmful impact of climate change, lalo-lalo ng Pilipinas. Sorry tayo dyan kasi since we are in the Pacific and we are in the a coastal country, talagang we're one of those who will experience the impact of climate change, which this includes changing weather patterns, ulan, init, more extreme weather events, bagyo, rising sea levels. You know that we are experiencing that. And of course, the poorest and the most vulnerable people are being the one affected. Bakit? Kasi sila ang pinakaunang magiging victims of that one. So, affordable, scalable solutions are available to enable countries to leapfrog to cleaner and more resilient economies. But then the problem is, how are we going to do this? Pwede na tayo mag-succeed sa Pilipinas when it comes to climate action, but the world's waste, pinakamalaking CO emission and other are coming from big countries. How are we going to do that? Diba? Again, inspirational activities. So by achievement natin may inspire JCIs, let's say in China, JCIs in the United States, on our activities that will, let's say, help. If our activity here about climate change is effective, they may adopt it and they will able to promote it in their country. And that would be the only way that we can send it off. Take note that global community shies away from commitments requires to reverse the climate crisis. Ang init. And we cannot do that. We cannot just do that alone. We are just victims here. COVID-19 also dumagdag pa, but thank God with the COVID problem, cars were less, airplanes were less, so medyo nagbaba yung carbon emissions for a while. For how many for 2 years most likely before it resumes. But then again, nandun pa rin siya. So climate change continues to exacerbate the frequency and severity of natural disasters. So we have to, as a JCI, all we can do is provide a band-aid solution for that. But then again, we can also start teaching people on how the effect and how to deal with the effect of climate change. Deal with the effect of climate change. Kasi nga, in the case is, that's the only thing we can do for this part because the effect is happening all over the world. And sabi ko nga, that is the big problem, but we can only create small solutions to the big problem. So, human responsibility to decrease greenhouse gas emission. So how are we going to help that? We have to come up with those basic activities around us to help lower the greenhouse gas. At the same time, yung largely dependent natin sa fossil fuel, and then how are we going to reduce it? Okay? Yan ang problema sa cities. Coastal cities and disadvantaged urban populations are particularly vulnerable. Yeah, like Cebu, Davao is also built something like that. We always encounter that problem. To the local government, maybe we can build inclusive approach to achieve economic, environmental, and societal objectives related to climate change. We can take part on that, tree planting, whatsoever, clean drive, something like that. Development measures and monitors progress of impacts regularly conducted community-level greenhouse gas emission inventories according to the latest standards. Develop creative financing tools for mobilizing investment that help to overcome climate risk derived from lack of basic infrastructure and environmental amenities for all, especially the poorest urban residents in the cities. Climate change really is a big problem, and that affects not just the human life, but also affects the life below water. And if we will not take care of this, our sources of food will also be affected. Kasi marine resources are also our source of life. And again, they're also life. If they will not take care of them, we have a problem with our biodiversity. So SDG 14 recognizes the world's oceans are essential global resource and vital to our own sustainable future. Oceans are public good that contains 200,000 identified species and most prevalent source of protein, yung fish, kinakain natin. More than 3 billion people depending on the oceans for their survival, while fisheries directly or indirectly employ about 200 million people. At the same time, over 40% of the world ocean are strongly influenced by human activities. Take note, including contamination, loss of habitats, and livestock depletion. So anong ginagawa ng mga natin? Usually, we do coastal cleanup. But is coastal cleanup sustainable? Is that something enough for us to do? Diba? That's why we have to go beyond. We have to go beyond on what we can just do on the on a band-aid solution. In our example with JCI Davao, we partner with Cleanergy Park, wherein those pawikan are breeding. It's not just because we want the pawikan to continue, but we want to move to the level of inspiring other communities that through helping local small areas, adopting it, helping them sustain that area where pawikans can continually grow, that inspiration may be replicated in other area wherein those areas that can be a potential growth place again for another pawikan area could continue to grow rather than masayang siya. This is not just an idea of we go local but the impact is global. Ganun yun siya eh. We go local but the impact is global because we try to make them see that this kind of activity can be done on the other part, which then again could make another change from other different places. Take note that ang problema natin is ocean acidification. Take note, ocean is where our food comes from. Parang kinakain natin ng waste natin. That one. Lalo na right now that most of the waste products that we can get from the oceans are face masks, yung mga out from the yung mga drastic na mga problem na nakukuha because of the COVID implication in human activities. Now, but because of the COVID, na-less na rin yung mga human activities sa dagat, such as yung mga tourism activities related. You know what? Yun yung idea yun yung idea of the closing of Boracay, the reducing human activities within the beach, make it heal. Mag-heal siya. So yun din ang idea nung nangyari sa general idea na nangyari sa COVID, nag-heal ang dagat. So that's why we have to take a look at that. How are we going to help on that process? So global marine key biodiversity areas covered by protected areas increase. Thank God. I know there are a lot of JCI local organizations in the country right now started to adopt mga communities. So masaya kasi the idea there is hindi yung area na gina-adopt ninyo, hindi lang siya magiging adopted project area nyo. Sometimes nagiging outing area nyo na rin eh. You can do bonding activities with your JCI fellows over there, recreational activities on the area you adopted. Parang kami, yung Cleanergy Park, nagiging namin yun eh. Pag nagkakanda kami ng project, it becomes a recreational area na rin sa amin because it's a beach, di ba? So masaya na rin, parang rather than looking for place to go outing, project at the same time outing because it's a good place for being adopted na rin ng organization ninyo. So masaya siya on that part. Sa city, urbanization has historically happened along major water bodies. Consequently, the most harmful way is which it is contaminate water reservoir. Yung mga dinidischarge natin na waste go to the water, especially to the seawater. Statistically, 2/3 of the sewage from urban areas discharge untreated into the lakes, rivers, and marine waters. So many coastal cities, makikita nyo yan, yung nag-yellow yung coastline ng area because of the improper wasted disposals. So we can take a look into that one. Relevance, for us siguro, we can help the enforcing regulation governing industrial, municipal, agricultural pollution. Okay? Also we can enhance integrated coastal zone management and conservation strategies, as well as introducing and enhancing value of ecosystem services as assets. Yung mga mangroves, I guess if you can adopt an area for a mangroves, that's a good one. Promoting community participation and local increase of nature protected coastal areas, just like us adopting a coastal area that will help and maintain it. And encouraging sustainable fishing practices through ethical municipal procurement. Kami may project back in 2020, JCI Davao has a project on the sustainable fishing and seaweeds planting. Life on land. Okay, this is one also good kasi from the sea to the land also affected. And key facts that changes in biodiversity to human activities have occurred more rapidly than any other time in the history. Lalo-lalo na yung habitat change from harvesting natural resources for industrial production, minings, loggings, something like that, that has a problem with the most important cause of biodiversity loss. Every year, 13 million hectares of forest, about 80% of all terrestrial animals and subsistence provider for 1.6 billion people are lost due to deforestation, desertification caused by human activities and climate change. So you see, falling short on 2020 target to help biodiversity. Marami pa rin yung mga animals na threatened for extinction due to what? Magkakaroon ng mga wildlife trafficking. Yan. Nang dahil sa wildlife trafficking na yan and irresponsible handling of yun, nagka-COVID tuloy tayo. Sino ba kasing kumain ng bat na yun? So ito ang natin, ito yung problema, di ba? That's rampant pa rin until right now. I guess you can see still in the market may mga nagtitinda pa rin ng mga wild animals, right? And that's really a problem. Tapos forest areas are continuing to decline, right? And then 2 billion hectares of land on earth are degraded, affecting some 3.2 billion people. So you see, only a third of 113 countries were on track to achieve their national target to integrate biodiversity into national planning. Thank God in the Philippines we have already integrated it, because of course Philippines is a forest agricultural land. So in the cities, although cities occupy only 2% of the global areas, their demand for mineral, land, and biodiversity resources are increasing. Lahat ata ng mga kinukuha natin, gamit natin sa city, kinukuha natin from the land occupation, forest and everything. Cities interfere prominently with terrestrial ecosystem. We get their resources, we throw them trash going back. So which is that's a problem. Kinukuha natin ng nila, tawag dyan, yung natural habitat ng mga places, which causes a big problem with the rural areas. So it is not just about expanding human population that drives biodiversity loss, but primarily the production and consumption pattern of urban dwellers that require specific resources inputs within and outside of urban ecosystem. Tulad nga ng irresponsible na consumption natin, people in the farm tends to produce more so that it could be consumed by a lot of people. At ang ginagawa ng mga people in the city, irresponsibly consume it, ang daming wasted. So ano nangyayari? Sayang lang din yung effort dito. Nalam nyo ba na kinakain na ng mga farms ang forest so that they can just produce more? Tapos pagdating sa city, we just waste. So kung nakita niyo yung problem, if we can solve the waste problem here sa downtown, sa city, we were helping here sa farmland reduce their effort in producing food. Nakita nyo, di ba? Parang that's the effect of that. So even though there's an urban growth, if we have a responsible consumption on this part of our life, of our cities, of our communities, this activity could affect the production ng could affect the production of the farm, which in turn helps the ecosystem produce go back to its normal production. Kasi pinipilit na natin yung ngayon ang earth to produce more goods for others, for all of us to consume. Tapos may nagugutom pa rin. Okay? So we have to think about it. Siguro we just have to help the government on our activities regarding helping the life on the land, plants, animals, and yung mga rural areas in their sustainable development. On the 16th, we have peace, justice, and strong institution. This is the last part kasi ito yung pinaka kumbaga detach sa human growth as a person itself, but ito yung isa sa societal na component natin. Because we are trying to promote peaceful and inclusive societies, because that's the general aspect of kahit kompleto ka na lahat dyan, kung hindi peaceful ang society mo, hindi ka pa rin mabubuhay. Just like what, let's say, Ukraine, you have everything, they have everything in there, but then again, there's war. It's useless. Okay? So, while the number of international conflicts has significantly decreased and the world is still shaken by war, terrorism, and widespread local conflicts, lalong-lalo na sa poverty-affected regions, according to the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, 15 million refugees in 2013 had to flee to other states, while even greater numbers of people were internally displaced refugees in their own countries. Lalong-lalo na dito sa atin. Yung mga lumad, they were internally displaced because their communities been taken from them. Furthermore, malfunctioning institution and justice system remains a huge obstacle to tackling sustainability issues. Every day, 100 civilians are killed in armed conflicts, despite protection under international law. Tapos, the global homicide rate naman, thankfully, declined na. But that's just 0.1. But then again, that's about translating to 440,000 homicide victims pa rin, even though it declined. So 127 have adopted right to information or freedom of information laws. In the Philippines, it's just an executive order, but not yet a law. We have to help them, encourage the government to have it. And of course, 6% of the countries nagka-problema with the COVID, yung prison overcrowding. Tapos, because of the COVID also, nag-threaten ng global peace and security. Lalong-lalo na with the context of vaccination na una ang mga first world country. And they just, whatever the salin nila doon will just given to the countries na ano. If your country cannot afford to buy, you will wait. You have to wait until their other countries finish everything they have. Yan ang sinasabi ni President Duterte. We cannot demand because the point is the first world country will go will accommodate their needs first. Mag-aantay tayo until they're done. Hindi tayo pwede magsabi na bakit wala pa tayong vaccine, bakit hindi tayo makakuha, meron ng US, because they produce their own. They have to start with their let's wait. Yun ang sabi niya. And that's reality. That's reality. We cannot with that one. Cannot contest with that one. Plus, many of these conflicts have local dimension peace and inclusion in urban areas are sorry. Somebody's calling. Who you? Anyway, as many of these conflicts have a local dimension, peace and inclusion in urban areas are inextricably linked to the transparency and accountability of local government and institutions. Cities offer great range of opportunities for capacity building. Then inclusive spatial planning and urban design accompanied by effective local institutions are important framework for peaceful society. Conflict-stricken areas demand concrete local action from resources to relieve affected populations and mediate further conflict. Ito yung mga ginagawa natin, let's say, in a certain example, let's say in an area where it is a war-stricken area, if your city is not involved, your city will be the refugee area, papunta siya doon. So in an area right now where conflicts happening, our areas now hindi affected becomes the refugee area. So anong mangyayari? How are we going to help? Lalo-lalo na let's say in the conflict of let's say NPA government, ang unang biktima niya na nadi-displace is ang mga lumad. So how are we going to help these lumad refugees which being throw away from their communities and now living in the cities na nakikita ninyo ngayon na naglalakas how are we going to help them? They need help also. Okay? So that's where we can go on and take part on this in this problem. For the government, we have to ensure that all local groups have equal access. Not everyone has equal access unless somebody will help them have equal access. And that is our part. We help people of minority to have equal access. We target socially deprived neighborhoods. Okay? And we increase public access to information. So, alam mo yun, there are JCI local organizations that become a source of information in their community. Kumbaga, your locality, the name that you are bringing in your JCI is your locality of local of responsibility. So parang kami, example, JCI Davao, we become responsible on helping our local government because we bring it. It's not just a local organization. This is part of our community. You are part of your community. You're bringing it. Okay? Now, introduce new form of participatory decision making. And then, you help promote social cohesion at the global scale by encountering exchange between nations, culture, religions, and supporting peace initiative and platform. And last is, we have the partnership for the goal. The reason here is lahat ng goal na yan are all together. Cross-cutting sustainable development issues require solutions that work across different sectors in the level of governance. Partnership, hindi mo kayang gawin yan all alone. You can tap your friends, you can tap organizations, the government, fellow local organizations, fellow JCIs, and your businesses around your community. Because the global goal stimulates the need to find financial means to implement this. Wala tayong pera sa JCI. But we have the energy and ano. So you see, never mind about this one. This is about just money. The important, what important is when we talk about this in the cities, we are center of education, culture, economic development. We have all this idea here. We have all this knowledge here. And as a JCI community, we can be the source of knowledge for the dissemination of information. And we are, as a local organization, no, nagiging source tayo ng partnership. Tayo yung klase ng organization that we find partners for us to be able to, The reason why we find partners, it's not because hindi natin kaya, but because we want to extend our network to make the community work as a whole. Okay, tandaan niyo yan ha. As a JCI, we want the community work as one. That's the reason why we take partners. We involve our stakeholders. We involve our businesses businesses partners in the community. That's why we do CSR. That's why we do project. Because we want to teach the community a sustainable development at the same time making them work together. So, andyan yung cooperation with various public, private, and social society partners. Okay? Through different projects that promote better inclusiveness during their implementation. Hindi ka gagawa ng project, you're not going to create a project that is all done by JCI members. You must be able to create a project that involves your partners so that they have a sense of responsibility also to what you are doing. Kasi after that, you will go away. Okay? Pag wala ka na dira, they can take care of that project. So the government, building close network with local government, strengthening means of implementation locally, and then assisting developing stakeholders, as well as advocating networking for increased levels of decentralized cooperation. So each goal is important in itself. Sabi ko nga, pag walang partnership, walang peace, walang life, we don't take care of our life on land and water. There's a climate action. Then if there is a climate action, magkakaproblema tayo ng production, magkakaproblema tayo sa cities natin, magkakaproblema sa inequalities, down to the infrastructure, the economic growth, the energy, all the way down to, again, go back to the pinaka-basic, the poverty. So if we will not take a look at all of this, we will still go back to number one. And that's a great steps away from 70. So let's help each other move forward now. So because they are all connected. So now the challenge, as a young active citizen, what SGD you think your community needs most at this time and why? So that's it. Thank you very much, guys, for the wonderful session with you.
Thank you so much, NDAC. We really appreciate all the insightful things that you've shared with us today. So let me just share my screen to present to you our certificate. And by the way, we have a question in the chat box, but I'm not sure if Press Jello is still here. But would you like to answer that, Andy?
Yeah, there are questions pala. For making projects, often we mislabel or misunderstand how project related to an SDG. Example, feeding program to zero hunger. How can we avoid these things to look out for? Guidelines to evaluate our project versus UNSDG. Okay. This is one of the problem that we discussed recently with the executive committees of the National Directorate for SDG. We have to ensure that when we create a project, the project that relates to the SDG is sustainable. Okay, such as when we label it, the project is should be in the criteria of being sustainable. Ibig sabihin nun, stakeholders are involved on kumbaga, when you implement, the local organizations implement it, okay? The stakeholders were involved in implementing it, and when you depart, the stakeholders can take care of it. You see the process. So when you when you involve yourself with your stakeholder, when you leave, the stakeholder has the responsibility to make it sustainable for the next movement. So tulad ng, let's say, feeding program, we cannot just simply say feeding program kasi feeding program is you implement it with the stakeholder. Did the stakeholder did something with it? Wala. So pag alis mo, will the program continues? Will it be sustainable for the stakeholders that you have involved in there? Di ba? Hindi. So that would not be that we cannot classify it as a sustainable development. So we have to design something. You have to design the idea to be sustainable, in which when you depart, the guideline there is when you depart, the project would still continue with the stakeholder initiatives. Ganon. Maybe you can come back to improve the initiatives, but then again, that doesn't. It should be the main part now would be when you leave, the stakeholders will be the one in charge of their what you have left with them.
All right. Thank you so much, NDAC. And I hope that we all learned a thing or two from today. And I'll share my screen again. So please allow me to read the lines on the certificate. By the way, everyone, I know you're already like hungry, but thank you so much for staying all the way until the end of the program. So here's the certificate of appreciation. This certificate is presented to Angel Constantine Bahana for sharing his valuable knowledge as trainer during the Goals for a Better World training via Zoom, given this 12th day of March 22. 2022. So signed by President Janelle Casas, J.Z. Zubuana, Allo President, and Liza Arbistondo, J.Z. Zubuana, VP Internal Affairs. Thank you so much, Andy, for sharing your time and valuable contribution to today's training. And at this moment, let me call on our lovely President for her closing remarks.
Hello. Good noon. Good morning. It's lunchtime, so I don't know. Good noon. Good afternoon. So NDAC, JCI, brothers, sisters, and friends. Good noon. In a developing world, economy, gender development, education, health, and wellness are a few problems that we are facing today. With applying the UNSDG goals to our JCI projects, we will be able to make changes in the world. If others can do it, you can do it, as per NDAC, diba? But yeah, definitely, if others can do it, so can we. So with heart, passion, and inspiration, we might be able to create impact in, or even in with other with small resources. So I would like to thank JCI Davao member 2022 ND for UNSDG Society Cluster A, AC Bahana, for taking the time to explain to us each and every SDG for us to be able to understand how we can help the society. I would like to thank the Zugbuwana Training Circle for flourishing our minds to foreseeing a sustainable future. So thank you everyone for joining today's webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Press.
Thank you so much. I'm so there. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
everyone. I'm
you.
supposed to play a song, but yeah, there you go. Thank you so much, Andy.
Thank you. Thank you.
To those who made it all the way till the end, thank you so much, guys. We appreciate you all. So we hope that we keep inspiring the whole community. And as what NDAC a while ago, whatever we have here is not exclusive to us. So I hope that we utilize our present resources without compromising our future generations. So thank you so much, guys. Sorry, I was supposed to play an audio song, but it didn't work. But thank you so much. Enjoy your lunch, everybody.
Photo beeps.
Bye, guys. Have a nice Saturday.
Sige, let's take a photo.
On cam, guys. Sige. Okay. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Sige. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Hope to see you soon in Cebu.
Yes. Are you coming here, Andy?
Meron na, I was supposed to ask sana kung makalarga ko, pero nakikihatag ang chapters ako work on 26 and like the whole day. So sabi ko, I cannot fly. Sabi niya, yeah, you have to do the project muna.
Sayang.
Supposed to be kay, then they told me like 26 ang Zoom. Okay, so 26 na. Ano man siya? Tuloy? Ikaw, Andy, anong gusto mo? Tapos sabi niya, ikaw man ang ikaw man ang mag-brief sa most G sa 26 about SDG. Ako ba? Okay. So wala ako. Kayo na lang mag-live sa Cebu. Kaya di ako pwede mag-training sa Cebu. I go there tapos mag-training ko. Buanga, di ko ka-enjoy. So mag-training na lang ko dire. Kaya kung ragin siya, ato na lang sa Cebu. Dito na lang ka mag-training. Tapos kamo naglaag mo, tapos ako nag-training ko the whole day. Pag sure mo dira, gansi kay ko, pag puyo, diri na lang ko eh. So, sige na, kay dito na lang pag-train. Lagi na, unfair kayo.
We have naman sa Zoom, ND. So, baka watch sad ka gihapon.
Gani, kaya nga sige na lang. Kasi I was really thinking, sabi ko 26 sige, masabay ko kanina naman siguro ang pwede na ako igawa. Pag yun ikaw